Okay, thank you, and welcome back, everybody. I during the tea break, I well, before we got to the tea break, I remembered a couple of other quotes. Sue will know this. I'm a great collector of quotes, a real magpie. I love when somebody says something just perfectly. So I looked up a couple that really sprang to mind while we were on the tea break. One of them, this is from that well-known contributor Anonymous, and it says, "I may not be perfect, but parts of me are truly excellent." I think that's probably quite a good mantra to have, to remember. Yeah, go along there. And another one was from and these poor Daniel. I've just added this the piece of paper that these are on, and another thing to the resources list. So hopefully they'll be up in the next couple of days, or maybe even today. He's put the video links up, actually, by the way, from yesterday, and he hopes that today's will go up fairly quickly as well if you need it. But anyway, the resources are there to help yourself too. But this one was from Kabir, who I just quickly looked up on good old Google, and because I thought he was a Sufi poet. And actually, he is a 15th century poet and mystic, so Google tells me. And he was originally, I can't remember which way around. Let me have a little look. I can't remember which way around it was now. Right, a 15th century Indian mystic poet and saint whose writings influenced Hinduism's Bhakti movement, and his verses are found in Sikhism scripture Guru Granth Sahib. His early life was in a Muslim family, but he was strongly influenced by his teacher, the Hindu Bhakti leader, Ramananda. So I like him already. But anyway, this
That's Guru Nanak.
Sorry?
That's Guru Nanak.
Guru Nanak. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this poem of his, or thoughts of his that I have, which I think is also very relevant to us now. It says, "The blue sky stretches out farther and farther. The daily sense of failure goes away. The damage I have done to myself fades. A million suns come forth with light when I sit firmly in that world." Shall I read that again? That's nice, isn't it? And we might think about what that world is, where we sit and how we sit firmly in there. That might be the basis of our next session. The blue sky stretches out farther and farther. The daily sense of failure goes away. The damage I have done to myself fades. The million suns come forth with light when I sit firmly in that world. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. So much truth in there. I think so. We went straight out after my talking in the meditation. Is there anything anybody wanted to bring up in particular relating to the session before we go into today's this next session's focus? No? Okay. But again, say I'll try to kind of notice if anything kind of, we will have, I do build in time for discussion within the plans for the session, but if something comes up beforehand, then if you raise your hand, and hopefully I'll see it there. So yeah, self-compassion. Truly compassionate people, as Jimpa said, take care of themselves while being attentive to the feelings and needs of those around them. In fact, the mental and physical health that comes from being kind to ourselves enables us to take better care of other people. And then also, there's a link in the resources there. I got this connection from Jimpa's book. There's an American scientist called Kristin Neff, who's done a lot of research in self-compassion in particular. And has set up this, what I think is a brilliant website called selfcompassion.org. Again, the link is in your notes. And she has within there a lot of the scientific basis behind it, if you're interested in following that side of things up. Clearly she knows what she's talking about. And also, on a much more practical level, there are a lot of guided meditations that you can listen to or download, and also activities, practical activities you can do. And one of the things that I've kind of penciled in for this session is based on something of hers. So, you know, really today and this weekend is just a very brief overview of the possibilities that there are for us to help develop our compassion, beginning perhaps with the compassion for ourselves, which is the kind of the root or the foundation of it. Anyway, so a quote from her as well. She says, "With self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care that we'd give to a good friend." And I think step one is noticing those occasions when we don't do that. The damage we do ourselves, the daily sense of failures that we keep reminding ourselves of. So yeah, so that's a very, you know, there's plenty to be more to get your teeth into if you want to continue after this weekend. When Christine Neff looks into self-compassion, she identifies as ever there's three elements. It's quite handy to kind of think in terms of lists, threes and fives and tens and all the rest of it to help us remember. The elements that she recognizes are self-kindness is one, common humanity is another, and I guess we've looked at sort of the common humanity from the inside out, trying to recognize the common humanity of others, those we find difficult, those we really don't care about, and those we really do care about, that they all with us along with ourselves share this common, as in the meditation yesterday, the wish to be happy, to find genuine happiness and peace, and the wish to avoid suffering and difficulties and problems as far as we can. But also it can be helpful, in terms of self-compassion for ourselves, to recognize our common humanity with others, that we, this, maybe it's to do with recognizing this perfectionism that we may hold with us, that we are a flawed but well-meaning and basically good human being, accepting that, and that we sometimes get things gloriously right and we sometimes get things gloriously wrong. And that's how it is. And being able to accept that and respond to both of those extremes and everything in between, the way we would to a good friend. If we saw a really good friend that we care about doing something difficult, in our view wrong, then we would give them the benefit of the doubt, wouldn't we? We would recognize, like a small child, maybe they're tired, they're not normal, this isn't the totality of who they are. They are, they are, as well as this, they are as well as saying, kind or unkind things rather. I know that as a rule, they are generally kind. They generally help people, but they have difficulties in their life at the moment and that sort of thing. So it's extending that same understanding to ourselves when we blow it, basically, and recognizing that also it's not the end of the world, by and large. Life goes on. We make mistakes. We can pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off, and off we go again. Try better next time. Yes, Anne.
I wonder if it seems a relevant time to mention this, but something made a big impression on me, and it said that I can't remember I got this information, but it was from a trusted source, that our bad experiences or stick like Velcro, and our good ones slide off like Teflon. And that there was a very good reason for this, because if you think of like cave people, you know, they're out there, they meet the hairy mammoth, they've got to remember that. So they've got to remember that bad experience. The good experience is sitting around the fireside singing songs in the evening. They don't have to remember, they can do that again. So it's almost, you know, something that's happened from way, way back. That actually helped me to see, why do we beat ourselves up so much? I find that very helpful, because we all do it. And there seemed to me, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's lovely. No, it is worth a lot. Thank you. It's a slightly humorous image as well, isn't it? Which is quite helpful. I often find, you know, in terms of compassion for self and others, humor is a wonderful source. And that, you know, Velcro versus Teflon, for me is quite a humorous image and a very helpful one. It's true. And to take your point as well, that there is possibly, you know, an evolutionary reason why this is. And once we know that, we're no longer in its thrall. You know, we have moved on. Other bits of our brains have developed and our minds, and we have had other experiences. So, you know, the joy of being a human is that we can learn, rationalize, and move on. So thank you, Anne. Yeah, that's helpful. Yes. Parts of me.
Avril, got a question?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go, Avril.
Thank you, Fee. Yes, what was it now? Ratio 5-1, seemingly. That if you see a really bad thing, upsetting thing, it will take 5 good things to cancel out that one bad thing. But the one bad thing is stronger, that you remember. Whereas 5 good things you'll sort of forget more easily. So I'm not explaining that terribly well, but you know, you get the drift.
Yeah, I get the drift. Yeah, for the ratio 5-1. So I guess if we have a bad experience, we can go out and immediately remind ourselves of 5 good things. If we make one mistake, we can immediately remind ourselves of 5 good qualities that we have. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it's true. We have that bias, don't we, generally? Actors say over and over again, you kind of hear it, don't you, that, you know, they may get, after a performance, they may get 59 good reviews and 1 bad review, and it's the bad review that they remember for the rest of their lives. So, you know, we can do that to ourselves. We have a tendency to do that. We can recognize that, and we can try and do something gently and kindly and with good humor about it, for our own sake and for the sake of the wider community, for those around us. Because we know, don't we, you know, if we're in a good mood and feeling good about ourselves, then we are much more open to others and aware of others, and much more likely to reach out to others and to be helpful. If we feel bad about ourselves and that we're no good, that we're losers, that nothing ever works out right, however hard I try, you know, we're going to give up, aren't we? We're not going to be that much fun to be around. Neither are we going to be able to be much help to anybody else either. It's not rocket science in a sense, but we do need to remind ourselves of these things, I think, from time to time. Okay, so yes, so self-kindness. Just trying to think, what does she mean by that? It is that trying to give ourselves that understanding, that you know, making allowances for ourselves. Not well, we'll see what it's not in a minute. But you know, I'm not perfect. Well, more than that even, but give ourselves, sort of make allowances for ourselves. And also when we need to take a break, that we take a break. When we need to remind ourselves of something positive, we do that. So kindness for ourselves Why wouldn't we do that for ourselves when we do it for so many other people? Another thing is common humanity. So recognizing that what we share with others. And also the third element that she recognizes, she identifies as mindfulness. So that's, being aware of what we're saying to ourselves, of the voice that we're saying it in, and so on. So just to maybe try and make those a little bit clearer, if we can do the screen share, the questionnaire, please, Faye. Have a little look at this. This comes from her work. It's been adapted again from her work. Yes, so rate your reactions to the following questions on a scale of 1 to 5. This is for your eyes only again. I'm not asking anybody to share their stuff, but it can be helpful sometimes just to recognize our initial reaction to a thing, where 1 is I strongly disagree and 5 is I strongly agree. So I try to be understanding and patient towards those. Do it in your, I'll read it through and then give you time to think about it as well. I try to be understanding and patient towards those aspects of my personality that I don't like. When I'm going through a very hard time, I give myself the caring and tenderness that I need. When I feel inadequate in some way, I try to remind myself that feelings of inadequacy are shared by most people. When things are going badly for me, I see the difficulties as part of life that everyone goes through. When I'm feeling down, I try to approach my feelings with curiosity and openness. Then when I fail at something important to me, I try to keep things in perspective. So have a read through and a think about those for now. What comes up for you? Okay, so we'll keep it up there for a little bit longer. And there are 2 of those for each of those different elements that she mentioned in self-compassion. I wonder if we can work out which belongs to which relates to self-kindness, which of those relates to common humanity, and which of those she would relate to mindfulness.
First 2 are kindness, the next 2 are common humanity, and the last 2 are mindfulness.
Oh, well done. Well done, Monica. Well done, thank you. Indeed, that's it. That's exactly how she describes them. I didn't jiggle them up or jiggle them about, but thank you. So yeah, so kindness, that's what she means by self-kindness, being understanding and patient towards those aspects of my personality that I don't like. Oh, I'm allowed to have aspects of my personality and not like them. That's interesting. Good. That's a good starting place, I think, seems to me. When I'm going through a very hard time, I give myself the caring and tenderness that I need. again, we might want to think of ways, how do I give myself caring and tenderness? How might I do it? Like Sue's list, how, if I have some ideas in mind to start with, it might help me be kinder to myself at the time if I've already kind of got a few aspects in my armory. And feeling inadequate. Everybody feels inadequate at some time. And everyone has difficulties. And that wisdom, that mindfulness, and linked to wisdom, I think, in the last time. So firstly, keeping the second one that she gives there, keeping things in perspective. But also when I'm feeling down, I approach my feelings with curiosity and openness. So she's not saying that there are feelings that are allowed and feelings that aren't allowed, but there are feelings that are there. So let's notice them and let's see what they can teach us. See what we can learn perhaps from them. I don't know. See, perhaps we can close that down, the screen share down now. Thanks. And what does anybody else have any thoughts or feelings or reactions to those points? The three aspects or any of the particular things. And again, yeah.
I just wrote something down when I was looking at those, and I wrote, I need to work on common humanity. And I do. Because we're all hard on ourselves, aren't we? And I put this facilitates self-forgiveness. But for what it's worth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And self-forgiveness is an important part of it, isn't it? Maki.
I think what was striking to me is when I see that text, of course it makes sense. And of course, that's what I need to do, but it takes such a long time for me to come to that point. When these things do happen, I'm immediately it's getting better, I think.
Good.
Little tiny steps, but I do feel like I know all of these things already, but it's really hard to recall them. And like you were saying, what do I actually need to do to take care of myself? I was trying to list them down, like, eat chocolate, go for a walk, all these things, but they're not accessible when I am going through a hard time as closely as, I can right now. So I was just thinking, this kind of gap between when things happen and when I realize I got to do something about it.
Yeah. No, thank you, Maki. That's I think probably would all recognize our common humanity there as well in that. People nodding. I have a suggestion for you to help. I mean, clearly familiarity, and this is part of this, this kind of process, is becoming familiar, first of all, focusing attention, reminding ourselves in a big way and with shared other people and the different images and suggestions that other people come up with can be very helpful, can really stick. The Teflon image or the whatever can be very helpful. And then as we do it, and as you said, it's getting better. There's nothing that doesn't become easier with practice. So we just do it and we keep doing it. And each time we forget to do it, that's okay. But each time we remember to do it, then we're that much closer. But my number one tip, which I would give to you all, is fridge magnets. I love fridge magnets and I love the quotes. So write these things down on a little bit of paper. Write these inspiring quotes down. Write down, I need chocolate sometimes. Write down all of those things. Stick it on the side of the fridge. Move them around from time to time. Check them out from time to time. Funny little cartoon if you can draw from, have a go. We've got to it's keeping them in our mind, isn't it? That's mindfulness, isn't it? Really, it's reminding ourselves of those positive aspects. So that's my tip to you for free. for this from this retreat here. Avril, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just want to add that this just popped into my head. When my youngest daughter got into Buddhism, how old would she have been? I think she was at university in Glasgow, 19 or something. And anyway, she was so enthusiastic about the whole philosophy. And anyway, she'd stuck these little yellow post-it notes on various places above the loo roll, you name it, and you may die today. And when her father saw that, he was horrified. He said, that is so pessimistic and gloomy. And no, Dad, you don't get it. You know, you just live every moment aware and awake. So anyway, that was that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anne.
I just wanted to add about your notes. I tend to put a note on my pillow, and then when I go to bed, I fall asleep perhaps with a little affirmation, which will help that, because I find that in my dream world, things happen. I might not be aware of it, but I wake up in a different mindset if I've gone to sleep with a particular idea in my mind. And I find that speeds things up. If I've got something particular I want to work on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good practice to remind ourselves of something positive. Yeah, and post-it notes are a good way of doing it. Thank you, Sue, and then Elizabeth, perhaps. Yeah.
And I was just going to say the when I did the exercise, the thing that struck me is that on a good day, I'm really strong with all of that, you know, in terms of being kind, connecting with common humanity, etc. On a not so good day, you know, it can be quite tough. And so the real challenge with it is being consistent, and the challenge is maintenance, isn't it? And of course, what influences a not so good day is what else is going on in one's life. So I can go for big chunks of time being right up there, and then all sorts of things can happen that then make this, you know, that then impact on all of that quite quickly, actually. And you know, that's what happened to me at the beginning of this year, hence why I've engaged much more often, as you know, Lynne, with friendship through the Buddhist groups and things, and that's really helped, you know, get me back on track again. And when I say things in life, I'm talking about everyday things, you know, like my mum being in a care home and the impact of the pandemic on that, and you know, things suddenly come crashing down, don't they, around all of that, and then that impacts on that, and you know, the work that you have to do to build up again, and I feel like, you know, I've come a long way since Christmas again. So yeah, for me, that's what struck me. On a good day, I'm right up there with all of that. Yeah. On a not so good day, and thankfully, you know, they're less and less, it's tough. Yeah. I don't know whether anyone else has that experience. Yeah.
There's a lovely part from, we've looked in our Wednesday group, haven't we, at videos from various women Buddhist teachers, and Pema Chodron is one that is a favourite of mine, and she's very popular. I'm sure many of you will know her work as well. And she has this thing, talks about her, I think she's talking about her Buddhist path. I mean, she's a nun. She's taken it very seriously since she first came across it when her husband walked out and cheated on him. She says, she talks about, you know, sometimes just that thing, I think, and again, for me, a very powerful image. Sometimes you're walking along in the shore, you know, in the sea, and it's fine and everything's wonderful. And then sometimes, and you know, you're full of love and compassion or whatever, And then sometimes a big wave comes and crashes down on you, and you're face down in the sand, and you've got a mouthful of sand, and your Buddhist path is just that. And so you pick it up yourself up again, and you're walking along, and it's all fine. And then another wave comes and it crashes down on you, and you've got your face in the sand again. And so it goes. And what she suggests is that the waves slowly begin to get less powerful. And that's that habituation. But we're never going to be, surfing along. Maybe it was surfing in his shoes, I can't remember. But we're never going to be surfing along, in ordinary life, all the time, are we? But it's as you say, and as Mackie said, I think it's trying to remember and finding ways of helping ourselves remember that heart, that heart of where we can sit, and the sun shines, and a million suns can come forth, but we can kind of sit there. It's reminding ourselves that is there, remembering, and we get better at remembering, like anything.
Yeah, and I guess for me that's the kind of work, if you like. You have to revisit all of that, don't you? Hence why I'm a great one for writing things down, because I revisit those nuggets of inspiration that I have, and because I know that they work, and so I revisit that, and I think, so I get hopefully what I'm aiming to do is to get back to that strong place again quicker, rather than than going right back to the beginning again.
Yes, so it's not so much a matter of consistency as a matter of remembering, perhaps.
Yes, that's probably true to say. I don't know whether that happens to other people. But,
I don't know, Elizabeth, you were going to say something earlier. Thank you, Sue.
Yes, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Monica, as well, for reminding us of the different reality we're living in. Like my family in Argentina, and like Monica in India, and how easy we've got it in a way. We all go through our path and our challenges, but there is homeless people in UK. Obviously, is nothing near the reality of India. Now, what I wanted to share is something that I've been like an exercise, or something I've been advised to do by somebody else involved with Land of Joy and running meditations. It's when you go to sleep at night, and I forgot to do it last night. Try to go to sleep with a positive thought. Think about something positive. And I have to say, it's not an easy one. And that you will see, if you try to find that positive thought and go to sleep with it, then in the morning, see how you feel. And see how that can potentially shift your day or your energy for that day. So that I wanted to pass you on that tip, because I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, thank you. Like Anne was saying there, it's a very powerful time, isn't it, our sleep? Actually, our minds are still working, and so what we feed into our mind just before we go to sleep is actually very important, and that's something we have some control over. So that's something we can work to our own advantage. And also, people suggest in the morning as we wake up, just connecting with how we feel, which is what you said, an important part, but also reconnecting with our better self, our aspirations, not our perfect self, our better self, what we can. So, and that will carry us into the day. Okay, thank you. So just a couple more things. I think that was it's been very helpful. A couple more things to say, and then we'll do another meditation. One is just to point out, again, as with ordinary compassion, we saw that it could be confused with other things, perhaps like pity. And self-compassion, obviously, also there are the same potential dangers. So it's different from the self-pity. Clearly, it's not self-absorbed, but it sees, they can't remember who I got this from, but we see our problems in the context of shared human experience, like we're saying. So it's different from self-pity. It's not, oh, poor me. We're not wallowing in it. We're saying, yeah, this is painful. And this is something that is part of being human. This is something that I know other people are going through right now. And I know other people, as you were saying, Elizabeth and Monica, other people are going through much worse. It's not self-indulgence. We can be, there is a difference. We can give ourselves chocolate when we need to, or cake, that's fine. But it's not that every time, that we recognize that is the answer to our problems, which is maybe what self-indulgence is. We can be kind to ourselves and have treats, but we're not dependent on them. It's different from that. We don't need to eat the whole tub of ice cream. We can have just a small part. And it's not actually, this is quite interesting. I found this one quite interesting. It's different from self-esteem. Now, self-esteem clearly is important to us, to feel good about how we are. But I think this is from Jimpa's work. He describes self-esteem as being self-regard based on measuring up to our own or to others' performance. So self-kindness is different. It's kinder than self-esteem. And I'm not sure entirely what I think about that, but it's worth thinking about. That self-esteem has within it is this kind of, or when it goes wrong, perhaps, has this element of measuring up against our perfect self, our ideal self, or measuring up it's kind of performance-based. It depends on, I can be happy about myself, provided I don't ever lose my temper, or provided other people regard me as a good person, or something like that. So self-kindness is just accept, like in the earlier meditation, this is who I am right now. That's good enough. I'm a work in progress. I guess it's more recognizing that I'm a work in progress. That I have good qualities, and it's maybe good to list those from time to time, so that when we're feeling down, we can recognize them. But it's not referring to any kind of external measure. Self-kindness is just there. It's just kindness. It's that affectionate love. It's unconditional, really. It wants the best for us, but it's unconditional. It's not conditional on our measuring up to something. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's worth thinking about. Sue, yeah.
I was just thinking as you were saying that, I mean, I don't know whether I've got the right hang of it. Could self-esteem be seen as, I don't know, like the value you place on yourself as a result of what other people might, as a result of your life experiences, or what other people might say? Has it got something to do with the value you place on yourself, self-esteem?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I suppose it seems logical, doesn't it? That's how it builds up. That's how we build up our self-esteem, and certainly as teachers and as parents, we are recognize it important not to destroy somebody's self-esteem. But there is this difference, I think, between, I guess, to me, the difference is clear between self-esteem and love and acceptance. So there's no measure, there's no conditions. My self-esteem, if I do something, if I really blow it and lose my temper and really shout and scream at somebody, my self-esteem will take a blow. And it's not something that I would be proud of necessarily. But with kindness, I recognize is that being open to recognize that there were causes and conditions around that. It was a bad day, there were lots of other things going on, and blah de blah. So self-kindness can still accept myself, even though I've blown it. It's not destroyed, as my self-esteem would certainly take a dip. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure myself. It's something maybe to kind of think around more, perhaps, yeah. So I'll do, if that's okay now, I'll take us in another meditation, a self-kindness meditation, again adapted from Jimpa, and then I've got another poem before we go off for our next tea break. Okay, so Oh, there's one other aspect, sorry. With one and the thing I got from another a talk I was listening to on self-compassion. With that, the self-kindness, the way that the woman who's given this talk described it, she was saying, and this links in with the thing of self-kindness being maybe more of a process, recognizing, you know, for example, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling ashamed or whatever, is actually sort of saying to ourselves in our head, I'm really sad now, or I'm really anxious, I'm, you know, really sad now because I can't see my family, or I'm really anxious because I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage at the end of the month, or I'm really ashamed because I blew it. We actually kind of give space and time, and not just, oh, I did that and I shouldn't have done, and moving on as quickly as possible, but allowing space for that recognition of these feelings. It's that to my mind, in that mindfulness, that being open to our feelings, to recognize, yeah, I'm feeling ashamed, I'm feeling embarrassed, or whatever, and the reason why, and holding back from going on, so therefore I'm a bad person, I always do this, and blah, 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 but just sitting with kindness with that feeling of, I'm feeling embarrassed. I wish I weren't feeling embarrassed. I wish I hadn't done that, perhaps. Or, you know, I wish there was something I could do to solve this problem, myself or others. If there is, I'll do it. If there's not, you know, may I be happy. I'll just wish myself or wish that other person compassion. Can we save that? I want to do the meditation now. So can we save reflection till the next session? Yeah, we'll have more time to come back on that. Thank you. Okay, so self-kindness and meditation. Again, be kind to yourself by focusing on your body, your physical posture, for the sake of your body. So as not to add any stress, but to reduce any stress that you can, and for the sake of your mind. And take 3 to 5 deep breaths, bringing each one all the way down to the belly, and then gently releasing it. So for this meditation, imagine yourself as a small child, a toddler perhaps, free and yet vulnerable, running around and often knocking things over along the way. Or if it's more helpful, imagine another time from your childhood that you can connect with kindness. Wouldn't you feel instinctively protective towards this child? Instead of negative judgment, criticism, and reprimand, wouldn't you feel tender and caring? Whatever your actual experience is as that child. In fact, if your experiences as that child were not ideal, can you look back at that child now with even greater compassion and love, tenderness and care? So let these feelings of tenderness and caring towards your child self permeate your heart. And silently repeat the phrases. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. Breathe gently and imagine the feeling of self-kindness as a warm light at your heart center. Imagine that rays of light spread out through your body from this heart source, soothing you, easing your suffering, and giving you strength and wisdom. And remain bathed in this image, this feeling. So from time to time, reconnect with that sense of tender care for that vulnerable young child. Feel the addition or the energizing of the radiant but gentle light at your heart. And imagine those rays suffusing your body. Inspiring feelings of safety, serenity, and total ease. And maybe if there are any areas of your life or your body or your mind that are particularly vulnerable at the moment, then give them an extra dose of the rays. Hold them in the warm light of loving care and compassion. May I be free from pain and suffering. May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I experience peace and joy. It's not that we expect or demand that this be the case, but that we wish for it, which is a perfectly reasonable, rational, human wish. Nothing to be ashamed of. May I be free from pain and suffering. May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I experience peace and joy. And still within that meditative state, I'll read this next poem, which is about self-kindness, I think. I actually got it from the Land of Joy newsletter. I'm very grateful to them. It's by John Donahue, and it's called Time to be Slow. This is the time to be slow. Lie low to the wall until the bitter weather passes. Try as best you can not to let the wire brush of doubt scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. If you remain generous, time will come good, and you will find your feet again on fresh pastures of promise, where the air will be kind and blushed with beginning. I'll read that again because there's some beautiful images in there, I think. This is the time to be slow. Lie low to the wall until the bitter weather passes. Try as best you can not to let the wire brush of doubt scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. If you remain generous, time will come good, and you will find your feet again on pastures of promise, where the air will be kind and blushed with beginning. Okay, when you're ready in the meditation, and thanks Faye for the poem, we can let that go now. Okay, so I misjudged the time before. We've actually got more time before tea break than I thought. So any reflections back? I know, Anne, you'd wanted to say something before, but also any reflections back on the meditation or that poem at all? Anne, did you want to raise your point now?
It's not about the meditation. It was just that an act of self-kindness that I discovered some years back, which was hugely helpful to me. And somebody mentioned about you go to sleep in a certain state, you wake up in a certain state. And I'd wake up saying, oh, I don't feel good today, and I'd sort of stick in that state. So I was almost reinforcing it myself. So if I feel like that, I think, well, okay, this is now, that's just passing through. And it lifts so quickly. And it was so useful not to reinforce any emotions at any time in the day, because I found that I was actually doing it to myself, if that makes any sense. It was huge, really.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. These things pass. All emotions, however powerful, they pass. And if they're more likely to pass I don't know, I'll put this out there, see what you think, but they're more likely to pass more successfully if we, as we acknowledge them. As you said, we wake up and we acknowledge, I'm feeling really dreary or really tired or really fed up this morning. Yeah, this is what it feels like. And this is now. And it's not the whole of the day or the whole of the rest of my life. Maybe. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to? Avril.
The thought I had, if, excuse me, due to a situation or a person's effect on you, has on you, is it about taking ownership of that response and that feeling and reflecting on it instead of the blame culture and getting into that narrative and cycle? So it's actually saying, well, yeah, that's my response to it. I'll own that and then reflect on it, possibly.
Yeah, that sounds really, really helpful. Thank you. Really grown up, doesn't it? Yeah, thank you. That's helpful to acknowledge it, to own it, not to just try and bat it away to them, the other. Yeah, thank you. Does somebody else have a hand up there? No. I don't mind a gap, but I also quite happy to fill them. Just that lines in the poem that really, really moved me this time. Well, moves me every time, but this time. So we lie low to the wall. We take shelter in the beginning where we can. When we recognise, we acknowledge. I think when things are getting tough, you know that it's difficult. Our resources are low, and we can't be the perfect person that we would like to be. So we lie low. We take care of ourselves in whatever way. We have a nibble of chocolate. We take ourselves off for a walk or whatever. And it will, until the bitter weather passes, like you were saying, Anne, it will pass. You know, weather doesn't stay the same forever. And then this bit I love. Well, I love all of it actually. Try as best you can not to let the wire brush of doubt. What a powerful image that is, the wire brush of doubt, and how corrosive doubt in our own potential, our own goodness can be, seems to me, in my understanding. Scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. That word hesitant again is to me is very, very powerful. Yeah. And then the good news, if you remain generous, again, very lovely. Time will come good. And that to me is you know part of the compassion and how it connects. Monica and others were saying, you know, with the rest of the world, really. If we remain generous, time will come good. So not closing our heart, not closing down, not blaming and distracting ourselves with all sorts of other things, but owning our feelings, our responses, our life, remaining generous, accepting that this is what they are, remaining generous to anyone else who may be involved in a situation, recognizing that they too are acting out of conditions and causes that have come together in this particular moment to act in that way. A bit like you were saying, Elizabeth, earlier, Elizabeth, I think, and talking about your difficult relationship with your mother there. And you said, you know, I can't change her. She's 77. This happened to me in my own mother's life. You know, and why should I? Why should she change to be the way I wanted to be, apart from anything else? You know, I can't change her. But it's not to say that I can't change the situation. What I can change is my own feelings, my own responses. Slowly but surely, I can recognize this isn't helpful. This is just going over old ground. This is just the same old path, you know, circular thing. What can I change? Can I be generous? not offer myself up as a sacrificial lamb, but can I, in setting boundaries, say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'd rather you didn't come over now. I'd rather not, you know, but can we do this instead? It's that, you know, there's a kind of a letting the other person communication that I'm not shutting you out of my life. But there may be difficulties, there are difficulties. Here's what I can do. And maybe again, it can be worthwhile to think about, so what can I offer? Bound to be something. If only, you know, send a card saying, sorry, hope you're well, you know, or whatever. There are things that we can do. And that's where the wisdom, I think, and the generosity kind of come into play, seems to me. I don't know, that's my interpretation. I've never done poetry before and stuff. I mean, I poetry was always, when I was a kid at school, poetry is always for the middle classes, you know. I had a working class chip on my shoulder, so I didn't do poetry. So I'm coming to it now like a, you know, a real convert. You know, a lot of it still goes way over my head, but when you get a phrase, you know, or a particular word or a conjunction of things, it's just so beautiful. And like you said, Monica, the bidding's so powerful, isn't it? So powerful. Lovely. I've got another, Anne, sorry, yeah. Well,
Hugely quick. Try T.S. Eliot. He says everything. I mean, he wasn't a Buddhist, but he should have been.
Oh,
T.S.
okay.
Eliot, the four quartets. Honestly, there's so much in there.
I have tried him and I found him a bit hard, but I'll go back to him.
Oh, he is quite heavy, but it's worth
Okay.
persevering, truly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'll give him another go. Sue.
I was just thinking, what you were saying about poetry resonates with me in terms of my background as well, and I've come to poetry late. But what really works for me now, in particularly the poem you've just read today, it's the imagery, and I do realise that you know, I'm such a visual person. It's the imagery, and because I have genuinely been stuck several times on a hillside and had to find cover, or you know, get extra stuff out my bag and munch on Kendal mint cake and all the rest of it. You know, and it does pass. It does pass. You know, you might be blimmin' freezing for hours on end, but it does pass, and thankfully I'm still alive. And so that's such a powerful image, because it means something to me, that image, because I understand it, and then if you apply it in the context that we are, it just really it just works, doesn't it? Somehow. So that's what poetry does for me. Yeah, it's the imagery.
Can I give you another image that is not remotely poetic, but also I found very powerful? This comes from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, another big hero of mine, who's big mates with the Dalai Lama, and very, actually got two things from him: very joyful man. And he actually was quoting a sister from one of the nunnery that he met, and she was talking about this thing of taking on suffering, you know, the suffering that exists in the world, and how painful and difficult it can be, and how how we don't know necessarily what to do with it. And she said, if we try to take on the pain like a vacuum cleaner, then it gets stuck inside. The bag fills up, and we're stuck, and we're suffering, and we don't know what to do. If we take it on like a washing machine, then it passes through. The dirt still comes, and it passes through. And in her context, she says, and we give it to God. In whatever other context we have, we do what, you know, we find a context in which we can deal with it, but it passes through. Isn't that a powerful image? Yeah. It's great. Yeah. Okay. One more, a little poem to take you out into the next tea break. This is a Chinese one, comes from Wu Men, who lived 1183 to 1260. And this is all about mindfulness. And again, a very useful technique to, in the day-to-day, the hurly-burly, the messiness of life in all its difficulties, that we just take this reminder less. 10,000 flowers in spring, the moon in autumn, the cool breeze in summer, snow in winter. If your mind isn't clouded by unnecessary things, this is the best season of your life. Time for a cup of tea, I think.